Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Anchor, back with you for another episode of the Mr. Anchor Show. Now, today, there's the Women's March happening up in Washington, D.C. Women are marching across the globe about women's equality. Now, the marches across the globe outside of the United States area actually have validity. They do. And because women across overseas do not have the same rights that women here in America do. Women in America have the right to vote, have the right to drive. They have the same rights as basically everybody else does. I mean, basically, across the board. They can vote, they can serve their country, they can choose what life they want to do, they can go to what school they want to. They have the same rights as I do. Now, the only time that, that here in America that there is actual validity to the woman's equality thing is when companies are proven to show that they pay males more than they pay females. That is something you don't march over. That is something that you take to legal proceedings. That's something you get a lawyer, you go to the court, and you take the company to court, and you win that way. You don't do it by marches. Marches aren't going to accomplish anything when it comes to that. You need to actually do it the correct and proper way and go through the court system and make the companies pay. That's how you accomplish change there, not by marching. Now, there are other aspects to why the women are marching right now. The Obamacare is getting ready to be gutted. It is getting ready to be repealed. It's just a fact. President Trump last night signed an executive action basically gutting the funding towards it. So, yeah, they're marching about, the abortion part of the thing. The thing with that is abortion is a gray area. That is a personal decision. I can't make that call for anybody, and nobody can make that call for me and my family. That's one of those things where it's self-responsibility. An abortion is an elective procedure. And what I mean by that is that, you took the responsibility, you took the chance of having sexual relations with someone. So if you get knocked up or pregnant, you know that even with birth control, this is just the fact. Even with birth control, there is no guarantees that you will not get knocked up. So you're taking that chance, you're taking that risk, and you should know this. So you're willing to play, but you're not willing to pay. Take self-responsibility for your actions. Maybe there should be a proceeding or introduced into a law saying that, okay, well, if a female wants to get an abortion, so that she doesn't have to pay the full chunk of it because it does take two to tango, the male must pay for half of it and is required to do so by law if they decide that they want to have an abortion. Now, there are cases where public funding could be used for abortions that I think most people would agree upon. And these cases are if the baby is detrimental to the woman's health or the baby's life has some detriment health issues itself. Then yes, it's going to cause medical problems for the baby. It's going to cause medical problems for the mother. So yeah, that's maybe public funding should go to fund that. But you have to prove that it is medically detrimental to somebody, to the baby or to the mother's health in order for public funding to be used to have an abortion. And then in the cases of rape, because that is a 9-month reminder of a horrible incident. Me and my wife discussed this last night. Yes, it is a horrible incident. Rape is a tragic incident. But, even having an abortion, that incident is still going to be there for the rest of your life. You can't just block out and then delete a memory of a bad incident. And you can do your best to try to forget about it, but even still, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be in the back of your mind. But in those cases, such as rape or incest, yeah, then maybe the public funding should go toward, public funding should go towards helping a person have an abortion. Other than that, you chose to be, you chose to have sex. Take responsibility for your actions. An innocent life shouldn't have to pay for your actions. Uh, you know, and if you want to have an abortion, you make that personal decision to have an abortion, then pay for it yourselves. Get the person that you tangoed with that got you that way, and split the bill. You know, make it legally required that men have to help out the woman if they choose to have an abortion. I know men will. I mean, what if the man's against it, and that brings up another issue? It brings up another argument. If the man's against it and he doesn't want to pay for it, will that force the woman to have it? Uh, I don't know. I don't know, because you're talking about something that personal perception is a very big part of this thing. Uh, some people think that having an abortion is not that big of a deal. Some people think that having an abortion is just horrendous. So that's why it should be left to be a personal decision. It's an elective procedure. And if you allow insurance companies to cover one elective procedure, you're going to have plastic surgery being next on the docket. You know, we got enough to pay for when it comes to medical coverage without adding elective procedures to it. And you can't show preference in elective procedures either, or else, you know, people will be like, well, this person got an abortion paid for by the taxpayers' money. I want a sex change on the taxpayers' money. And unfortunately, what was it, in California, a guy in prison is getting a sex change operation paid for by, guess what? All of us that's watching. Our taxpayer money is going to go pay for somebody to have a sex change operation. It's not medically necessary. It isn't, by no means. The guy can live a normal life for the rest of his life, or live a life without pain or being in misery or anything like that for the rest of his life. But, so it's not medically necessary. This is an elective procedure, and yet we're footing the bill for it. So we got to be careful on what we, you know, select to choose. I mean, if you start choosing preferences over elective procedures, you're going to have a bunch of elective procedures come into play. No, basically what I'm trying to say is this. The Women's March here in the United States is not about equality. It's not about women's rights, because I mean, I just told you, if you're really concerned about equal pay, you need to go to the court systems. You need to take care of that. Abortion is a personal decision. That's a gray area. You know, we could argue about this back and forth all day, and there's not going to be a common solution, because there's going to be somebody to one extreme and somebody to the other extreme. That's why I say take away public funding towards abortions and make people pay for it, because then it is truly their choice. The public would have no say. It gets rid of the argument from the public spotlight. So that's my opinion on the fact, or on that matter. But here in America, they're protesting because their candidate lost. You go to the Twitter right now and you look at the hashtags for Women's March, for anything that's related to the Women's March. You go to Facebook or YouTube or anything. It's all people on there saying, I'm still with her, not my president. They're proving that they're just nothing but sore losers. And here's the thing that really aggravates me. All these women advocacy groups came out in plethoras during the election year. They came out in plethoras saying, vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman. These are the same groups that claim they fight sexism, but they just displayed it by saying that. By saying, vote for somebody just because of their sex, you displayed a sexist behavior. Congratulations, you're the biggest hypocrites in the world. Right then and there, you just proved it to the world that you don't care about equality. You want preferential treatment. And that doesn't work. That does not work for anybody, anywhere. It just doesn't work. This is about sore losers and people crying that their candidate lost. That is all this is. This is under the guise of, oh, we're fighting for women equality. But really, it's about, oh, poor Willie's me. Our candidate lost. We didn't get a first woman president yet. You know, a first woman president will come, and probably in my lifetime, maybe even in the next 4 years or next 8 years. I say it will come. But they could have chose a better candidate than Hillary Clinton to put up. I can think of several people, or several women, that I would vote for in a heartbeat, but Hillary is not one of them, and never will be. So, put up a good candidate. There's my challenge to the Women's March people. Put up a good candidate. Get your act together. You want to see the first female president? Find a candidate. Find a candidate that people can get behind and put her out there. Put her out there. Get it going. Because Hillary Clinton, there was just too much going wrong with Hillary Clinton. I can hear the arguments now, but Russia interfered with the election. Cold hard facts about that: Russia and the United States have been hacking one another since the end of the Cold War. That is fact. New York Times reported it. Go look it up. Actually, several other news organizations reported it, but that's the first one I can remember right off the top of my head. So, we're pointing fingers at Russia saying, naughty you, but we should be pointing at ourselves and saying, naughty us also, because our hands aren't clean in this arena. But they were trying to influence an election. We caught Hillary Clinton on tape through WikiLeaks, and it's been proven to be her, sitting there saying how they manipulated a vote overseas. So, how can we point fingers when our own hands are not clean ourselves? We do the same thing. We do the exact same things as what Russia just tried to do to us. And no matter how much people want to convince themselves that at the polling was done, that the Russians hacked the polls and made Trump win, that is equivocally false. Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton went state to state during the recounts, trying to find evidence of this, and failed to produce evidence of this to federal judges, and that is why federal judges shut down the recounts, because they had no evidence of manipulation at the polls. The United States citizens chose Trump. Your candidate lost. Get used to it. He's already in office. There's nothing you can do now. That is what is. And here's the funny thing. As much as people point to Russia and sit there and say, well, Russia's to blame for Donald Trump being in office because of all the information that they release. Well, guess what? They may have released that information, but they sure as hell did not write it. That's fact. You can blame your candidates for that one. You can blame Hillary and anybody else's name that was signed onto those documents that were leaked, who actually wrote it. But you will sit there and condemn Russia for that, but praise Snowden for doing the exact same thing? What kind of hypocrite are you? Something that's bad is bad. Don't sit there and waffle back and forth going, okay, well, this one did the exact same thing, but we're going to like him, but this place did this, and we're going to dislike them. That makes no damn sense at all. That's about as hypocritical as it gets. I'm just telling it like it is.